I'm Gary Davidson, and I head the practice group at Castle Law for real estate. I want to talk about credits and closing cost credits. Many people who are buying homes will request a closing cost credit. Why is that? Well, as a lender can only lend on the value of the property. So, for example, if you are buying a $100,000 house and you have to put 10% down, then you're going to have to bring $10,000 to closing. However, obviously, there's additional closing costs. You have to pay for your title expenses, you have to pay for your attorney, you have to pay for your mortgage broker fees, you have to pay for an appraisal. There's a whole host of additional costs. So, for many people, in addition to paying for that down payment, they don't have the extra three, four, $5,000 that are needed for the closing. So this is a great way for a buyer to be able to buy a more expensive house and for a seller to sell a house that is more expensive to someone who may have a limited amount of money to bring to closing. That's closing cost credits in a nutshell. Now, what do we do with the closing cost credit? You must indicate on the contract what the closing costs are. And you should ask your lender at the beginning of a transaction, what total amount of closing costs can I use? One of the things that I see often is someone will negotiate a $7,500 closing cost credit, yet there are only $5,000 in closing costs. Well, if there's not sufficient closing costs, you lose that $2,500. Now, as a seller, I don't care whether I'm giving a closing cost credit or whether I'm negotiating on purchase price. So if you know your closing costs are only $5,000 and you ask for a $7,500 credit, you're leaving $2,500 on the table where you could have asked that seller to reduce the purchase. Additionally, it's a great tool for sellers for you to be able to sell your house to someone who is a very, very good buyer, but perhaps just has a limited amount of money to put down. So now we can push up that purchase price, but you give them back that closing cost credit. This is a very commonly used technique in the real estate industry to both buy and sell properties, and I highly recommend you use it. If you need any more information about closing costs, please contact Castle Law.